Do you think that's essential for someone to have in business with regards to MBA or kind of a qualification in business?
No, I don't think so. I don't think necessarily. I think MBA is very good if you're going down that corporate route. I think, and I can see the advantages to that sort of thing, why people would want that. I think people wanting to run a business, again, I'm probably going to say that, but just get on with it. Just do it and learn, surround yourself with the right people, read the right books, look at the right podcasts. And just learn. I think that to me is the way. That's what I would kind Be passionate about the idea you want to do. Learn as much as you can about that and just run with it. That's what That's what I would say to anybody, really.
Great
so again, I don't know if that's the right way, but that's what.
Of course.
That's my way of.
Well, you're pretty successful, so
of how I would do it, sort of thing.
Good advice. So today I'm joined with the amazing Lee Pemberton, and it's an absolute honour to have you on Ultra-Preneur.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Really happy for giving the time up today and showing us around your lovely pad you've got here.
Thank you.
I'm just going to go quick bio for the viewers about yourself. So Lee Pemberton is a serious investor and entrepreneur. At a young age, Lee became the British karate champion and quickly understood the concept of applying his mindset not only in physical way but in business. By an early age of 19, Lee set up business by creating his first health club and soon after built his own home at the early age of 21. In 1995, Lee sold his health club and first home and moved overseas to Asia, where he started another business in consulting while studying for his MBA. After 3 years, Lee then returned to the UK and set up his first serviced accommodation business in the year 2000. Lee then built up a whopping 150 apartments around the UK. However, in 2008, Lee had to place the business in voluntary receivership due to banking crisis. Losing his $5 million plus property portfolio overnight, Lee put his entrepreneurial spirit into action and started to grind on his service accommodation business again to build a substantial business in property development, rent-to-rent, and property management. Lee believes his knowledge and his network are his biggest assets, and he wants to create the following flow: project, promotion, process, people, and profit. Wow.
Very good.
That's quite something.
Very good.
That's quite something. Wow. So first I want to get kind of where you started off with in life, really. So tell us about your childhood. What was you like growing up as a child?
Yes, I was just.
Where are you from?
Yeah, okay. So normal child from London originally.
Okay.
Normal childhood, and mum, dad, two sisters.
Yeah.
And just a normal childhood.
Okay.
Just grew up on the council estate.
Was your mum and dad kind of entrepreneurial? Or?
My father was as a carpenter by trade. Mum was stay-at-home mum, if you like. So he looked after us, the three of us, and had a great childhood. Had a really just a normal, stable. Great kind of family.
So no
life.
Kind of like rags to riches again.
No, just normal.
Normal.
Just normal, just all normal. Everything. Yeah. I said my father was sort of, he I say dabbled in business. He was self-employed. So I'd always, I suppose, from a very early age, noticed how by working hard you get rewarded for what you do, as opposed to, if you like, say, getting a salary. So so I kind of understood that, I suppose, at quite an early age.
Kind of the concept of working hard, and then obviously you can
and having to get up and earn the money on a daily basis rather than just receiving a salary, turning up to a job and getting paid a salary for it.
That's
so
interesting.
I kind of understood. So psychologically, I understood that.
Yeah, like conditioning, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. So so that was pretty much my sort of humble beginnings, if you like.
So who would you say was the most kind of influential person growing up, and like did you have like a role model, whether that's a businessman or was it your father?
Probably both my parents, to be fair, because they brought obviously stability to us as a family, which, being a parent now myself, I feel that's really important, really important principle to have that sort of stability for children. So I definitely would say that was the case. And also, I mean, as you mentioned, I studied martial arts from a really, really young age. So I suppose in a way there was various people within that
Bruce Lee
area. Yeah, probably to a certain point. I could do a few Bruce Lee moves in my time.
Oh, really?
Not so much nowadays. I'm not going to demonstrate the split, Alex. Definitely not. I would definitely say, sort of people that I associated with myself. So, what we would call like our chief instructor of the world, who lived in Japan.
Wow.
You know, he was a big influence on me. You know, kind of because he's a very humble person.
Yeah.
And I was really interested in the kind of like the traditional side of karate. From quite a young age.
And what do you mean by the traditional side?
Well, so a lot of people see karate and they think of like Karate Kid or Bruce Lee, and they think about like kind of competing and the sports side to karate, which I did, and I was quite successful at that. Again, through working hard. I managed to achieve a lot through my karate career, if you like.
Right. Okay.
But the traditional side was very much about sort of, I suppose, being in a dojo and just being at one with yourself, if that makes sense, and just practicing, you know, day in, day out. It could be a certain move, it could be certain techniques that you're doing, and just perfecting what you're trying to do. So for me, I suppose from a really young age, you know, kind of training every day, that's really what I did. So sort of day in, day out, just, you know, constantly training on different techniques or different things. That was the bit that I found, you know, I really enjoyed doing that sort of thing. So I
would say you developed discipline then at a young
age. Yeah, very much so. And
instructor kind of made sure you did it.
But
you enjoyed doing it.
But I love doing it. I really, really did. I mean, I was 7 when I started.
Wow.
So you know, I was really young. I mean, so just to sort of share with you, I got my black belt when I was 13. So I was the youngest in the country to get my black belt.
Phenomenal.
And there was no children. There was obviously other children I trained with, but because of where the level I was at, I was training really with adults. So from a very young age, I was sort of training with adults and having to kind of, if you like, I suppose, compete with adults.
Wow.
So from that point of view, I suppose although I had a great childhood, I was out every night sort of training and doing, you know, that was what was important to me, if you like. So when my friends, as I got slightly older, like into teenage years, and my friends were obviously, you know, going out, so having a few beers and that kind of stuff, it wasn't really my thing, because I was out training.
So you stuck to it then? Which is,
So from a discipline point of view, that's kind of what I did, sort of thing, and that's what I enjoyed.
That's interesting.
I really loved doing that.
And I bet you developed quite a concept of being focused as well.
Very much so.
Yeah, you have to. When there's kind of distractions like your friends going out, saying we've had a good time and stuff, and you're like, no thanks, I'm going to commit to this.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I was still one of the lads, but at the bits of where they were kind of then taking it to the next level, as you do as a teenager, that was the bit where I sort of, I was then, you know, with my sports bag and heading off to the gym, if you like. So, but it was brilliant, and I had great opportunities as from a young age, because of the level that I'd achieved quite early on. So
awesome.
So that was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
Cool.
Sort of thing.
And I mean, growing up as a child as well, is there any fears that you had? What would you say is your biggest fear growing up as a child?
Oh wow, I didn't really have any fears, not that I can think of. I suppose for me, if I can think of like one incident, if you like, of the biggest fear was probably when sort of the night before, I can picture so clearly of having to take my black belt. That for me was in terms of nerves, and it's weird, isn't it? A 13-year-old that you think, why you'd be so nervous, but I can picture that night before. I stayed awake all night. I was so nervous.
Something you can remember.
And just because I just wanted to get everything so right on the day.
Would you say the fear was to fail, or would the fear of looking bad in front of people?
I suppose so. I suppose it's a fear of failing in a way. That was kind of like something that I felt really nervous over, and something, as I said, later on in my business career, that obviously when I did fail in business, it was something I had to then, I suppose in a way, kind of work through, if you like. So but definitely as a child, as I said, I had great opportunity doing what I was doing with the sport that I did, and achieved great success with that. So
cool.
So it's really good.
I mean, touching on your younger days, so to speak, what would you say was the youngest kind of memory you have of your entrepreneurial side coming out? Because I know you started pretty young.
And I did. Because of I said achieved my black belt when I was 13, and I then started to teach children how to do karate. So that was kind of how I started within the dojo that I was in.
And how old were you then?
Well, I was 14.
Wow.
And I actually, and then by the time I was 15, I actually set up my own karate school. Obviously, I was too young to, let's say, hire a room in a school or in a sports centre. So I had an adult that hired the room for me, put it in their name, and
that's phenomenal.
Actually, it sounds a bit like rent to rent, doesn't it? I didn't really think about that before, but so I had an adult that would hire the room, and then I built up a karate school, and I built up quite a successful school. I had about 100 students. at the age of 15.
So you was teaching...
So I was teaching children and adults as well then, because I started
and
adults.
groups of 100?
I had 100 people coming along to my weekly sessions, and which is a bit crazy because like friends of mine had like the paper rounds, and I was like, I was earning probably like a couple of £100 a week from my karate schools, which was a bit surreal. When I think back about it now, sort of thing.
Really cool.
But it was great. So that was definitely my first touch, I suppose, of running my own business. Yeah. And I obviously really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first experience of that. So that was really, loved it.
Awesome.
It's really good.
And what were you like at school? Were you kind of mischievous? Were you the excited guy with like teacher's pet?
I was one of the lads, I suppose. Okay. But yeah, I didn't really get. It's an interesting thing. So I'm quite proud of the fact of I've never got myself in a situation. Let's say got myself in a situation in terms of a confrontation or a fight or anything like that.
Yeah, and I suppose with discipline.
I think because of discipline, because of my mindset of when you're kind of like say when you become older and you start going to the pubs and bars and stuff like that, and you see certain incidents that may take place from time to time. Yeah. I recognise the fact of when if there was an issue, just to be able to just step away and walk away from that. So and it was the same at school. I just kept away from things like that. I didn't, I suppose because of that discipline that I had, and I was so into my training and doing what I was saying. It sounds really sad, doesn't it?
No,
but I was,
What was your favourite subject?
Well, funny, economics was probably my favourite. Economics and drama.
Wow, okay.
Awesome. So which was quite interesting. So they were my favourite subjects. So I did okay. Got the basic grades to get through schooling. Yeah. Schooling wasn't really top of my list, to be honest. And I suppose sort of having kind of say working class parents, it wasn't really something that was really instilled upon us, sort of thing. Yeah. Also living in London, it was quite easy to just leave school and get a job. Yeah. So I didn't really think about going to university or staying on to do my A levels. I left school at 16, got a job in the city. Worked in a bank. Okay. And I did that because my grandfather worked in the bank, so it's just natural that he just, not got me a job, but it was just like natural thing to sort of think, I'll do that. What do I do? I'll go and work in the bank. So I worked in the city when I first left school, but found out very early on that, so still teaching my karate classes and still building up that business separately, but working in the banking sector at that age, I just couldn't get my head around the kind of getting on the train early in the morning, going to the office, being in an office, coming back. I just I thought, I can't see me doing this now for the next 50 years of my life.
Yeah. Did you feel confined to like kind of rules, so to speak? Like you've got to catch the train now, and then you've got to answer to your boss.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind that so much, but I just felt that whole, like when I, again, sort of visualised back to sitting on the train and just seeing people like with the FT and the Times, and I just thought, this is it for me for the next 50 years. Yeah. Or I'm going to get a good pension and good mortgage and like all that traditional type of thoughts really. So when I said to my mother about leaving, actually I'm going to leave. I'm not going to. Wow. Yeah, she was sort of like, "Are you sure? But you've got like a really good career ahead of you, and you could build up in the banking."
How much was you earning from the bank?
Oh, not very much. Oh, okay. No.
But there was progression.
But again, I was earning good money from my classes that I was teaching. But the banking side, I mean, back then, I don't know. It's probably like £100 net a week or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It wasn't much money at all, sort of thing. I started off obviously at a really low pay grade, and so I did that for a while, and then just sort of felt that actually I wanted to explore business. I wanted to get more involved with that, and because I'd been training and doing all those things, so I used to go to the gym. As obviously as part of my training and everything like that, and so I just naturally kind of went into that.
Right. Felt right.
And it felt right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I see an opportunity to actually set up, if you like, my own health club. Yeah. That was kind of, so it's kind of a natural of kind of doing my classes and things and thinking, actually, I think there's an opportunity here there was no branded health clubs back then. So like, there's no like Fitness First or anything like that. So
that gave you the idea of kind of going forward from teaching people about the karate. You thought, oh, hang on, there might be an opportunity.
Actually, I can continue to do this. And actually, why don't I look at actually, setting up a gym, if you like, and creating my own health club, which is what I did. So that's kind of
wow. And how did that go? How did you get kind of?
Yeah, it was good. It was my first lesson in terms of employing people. Okay. Which is a massive challenge.
And how much staff did you have?
I only had a few staff. Okay. It was mainly self-employed, so you kind of like bring instructors in to teach. Yeah. Whether it was like circuit training or aerobics or what have you. So you brought different instructors in to teach different parts. Yeah. Obviously like gym instructors and what have you. So we had a few members of staff that were full-time. Yeah. So I brought a manager in to sort of manage the club for me. Yeah. which again, I kind of worked through a few different managers to try and find the right one.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. It was a great experience, and I'm really glad I did it.
And you learned many things from that first experience.
Goodness, absolutely, right, And I think I can probably look back on my whole career, if you like, in business, and think I've always tried to do what I've wanted to do.
Okay.
If that makes sense. So sometimes that's not a good thing. On reflection, sort of thing. I kind of I'm probably that type of person that kind of let's just give it a go. Let's see what happens, and then actually that didn't quite work.
Right.
So
you say you're a creative person.
Definitely, I'm a creator. There's no question about it.
Great.
Yeah. So that was quite interesting, sort of setting up, sort of the health club side of things.
Okay, great stuff. And in regards to, I studied quite a few entrepreneurs, and one thing they all have in common is kind of a morning ritual, and I'm just intrigued. Do you have a morning ritual? Do you kind of?
Sadly, I do.
Do you? Okay.
So you want to know my morning ritual?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I do get up early.
Yeah.
I do believe.
How early?
So 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I'm up. Obviously, I work from home.
Yeah.
So I'm up and I'm sort of straight on the laptop, pretty much, sort of thing. So
emails.
No, I used to do emails.
Yeah.
But I don't do that anymore. So what I do now is I concentrate on my strategy.
Okay.
And I spend really an hour, so 6 till 7. I'm a bit sad. I like to have my routine.
I love it. Yeah.
So 6 till 7 is strategy. Looking at every day, just looking at where am I? Where am I in terms of what I'm trying to do?
Your reality right now.
Yeah. So I'll kind of look at sort of top end strategy.
Okay.
Not necessarily look at say 5-year plan, but I am looking at where am I sort of thing. Bring that right down to my 90-day plan. Bring that down to my 30-day plan. Bring that down to that week. Make sure I've got the right appointments in place for what I'm trying to do. Change appointments if I need to. So that's kind of pretty much my 6 till 7 slot every day is doing that. If I'm not going for an early morning meeting, that's what I'm doing. 7 o'clock I do exercise. So I still need to do a bit more exercise.
Well, what kind of exercise do you do?
So from running, we've created a gym within our home.
Awesome.
It's
an amazing gym, by the way. It's a really cool gym. I wish I had one.
I thought I'd show you that. So it'd probably be a bit better if you were using it. But so just basic stuff. So basic weight, stretching, all those different types of exercise, really. So I think that's really important. It's something I haven't done enough of. I've definitely put some pounds on in the last 6 months through doing, just being so busy. But I'm really trying to be more disciplined.
Of course.
Get back to that again. So 7 to 8 exercise, if you like. And then really I'm sort of shower changed and then ready to kind of start work at 8:30.
Okay.
And then at 8:30, that's when I'm then focused on my emails.
Okay.
And meeting wise, I try to do those later in the day.
Okay.
That's my kind of plan, really. So
good stuff. And in regards to kind of eating healthy,
yes.
I've noticed for example, I love food, don't get me wrong, but when I'm so in the zone and focused on business, I'm like, oh, do I have to eat? And I know my stomach's grumbling.
Yes.
It's like I don't want to waste that time eating something rather than doing something in the business.
Yes.
So, do you eat healthy?
I do. So again, I try to. I find it. I do like a cup of coffee. And probably that's something I probably just need to cut back on a little bit. So I probably will have like 2 or 3 cups of coffee.
An entrepreneur's best friend, coffee.
Yeah, I know, it's just easy. I do try to keep with just having like protein as much as I can throughout the day. Keep the carbs down as much as I possibly can. But the downside is sometimes when you become really busy, you just kind of fall in. Or if you're say on the road, I've been on the road quite a lot, and you kind of like you go to the service stations. There's not a lot of healthy choices of food, so you do end up with like a sandwich from Starbucks or whatever it might be. So that's the downside to it, really. So I probably need to be a bit more disciplined and create salads and do. But
bit structured with kind of
Okay. But like you said, it's something you just forget about. You just sort of do everything else. I don't stop. I don't sit down and have breakfast, and I don't stop for lunch. I kind of eat as I go along.
Cool. And as studying these entrepreneurs, these successful people like Warren Buffett and Mark Zuckerberg, Steve Jobs, etc., they all kind of say they control their peer group, and it's one of the questions I've always intrigued with. Do you have control of your peer group? I know you said he was one of the lads and stuff, but do you control who you associate with?
Yes, definitely.
Right,
definitely.
okay.
And I think that's probably something I've learnt over the years, to be honest with you. So very much so. I do try to, the people that I like to spend time with, if you like, outside, like all of us, I like to have a bit of banter, a bit of fun,
Yeah.
a bit of downtime if you can. And I've got, we've got, Amanda and I have some really good friends that we kind of do spend time with, which are kind of just separate to work,
Yeah.
separate to the business. I think that's quite important to get that balance.
Yeah. And you associate with, obviously, select few with business as well.
Definitely,
right,
yeah. And then as far as business is concerned, most definitely, I definitely like to surround myself with, successful people.
Yeah.
But what do we judge by success?
Yeah.
It could
So why is that? Why would you say why you like surrounding yourself with successful people?
Yeah, because I think that pushes you as a person, as an individual. So I'm really keen to sort of constantly look at how I can improve myself. I'm really keen to do that.
Yep.
And I think by associating yourself with, I say successful people, it doesn't necessarily mean to say success in terms of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be success of what they've been through.
Yeah, there's a quote where, I forgot who said it now, but someone said that never be the smartest man in the room, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So you raise your kind of standards.
Yes, yeah, and learning from people all the time like that.
Absolutely. And how do you relax and unwind? As an entrepreneur, it's quite hard to chill out.
Hard.
Yeah, so how do you relax?
I think that's probably my biggest challenge because, and I've always been the same, because I work from home.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, oh, you work from home, oh, it must be great, you put the TV on, you do this, but I'm completely the opposite.
Yeah.
And I could have, say, Amanda would come in and talk about something to do with the children or what have you. And I'm so in the zone of working that I just kind of forget. I'm like, what? Hang on, exactly. And I'm very, again, because I suppose I'm very focused. I'm very focused in on what I'm doing. So, which isn't a good thing all the time. I try to, if I can, by about sort of like 7 o'clock. So as I said, kind of like, pretty much starting at 6, if you like, with that kind of small break for exercise. I'll work through to probably about sort of 7, 8 o'clock, and then we'll have supper together. When I'm not out, talking or what have you in the evening time or networking. And I try to have that cut-off point if I can. However, as you would know, Alex, all too well, Facebook and all those things, you end up then sort of thinking, I'll do all my Facebook stuff, and that's not kind of. That's from a business point of view,
absolutely.
like replying back to people and doing. So you end up kind of then still sitting there doing stuff, sort of thing. But I suppose on the other side to that, I love what I do. I really enjoy business, and and I love so being involved with Serviced Accommodation. I love that as a business anyway. So I don't see it as work. It's like
exactly. That's what one of the things.
If I probably looked at my hourly rates, it would probably be absolutely crap, sort of thing. But I just enjoy what I do. So business. That's how I look at it.
Great stuff. And as I was touring through your lovely, amazing house you've got here,
thank you.
I've noticed quite a few books that you've got. And I'm just wondering, are you quite big on personal development?
Yes,
is it something
definitely.
that you do?
Absolutely.
Why do you think it's important?
So I've always tried to read books, whether they're biographies, through to self-help books. I've always done that sort of from a really young age. Probably about the age of 17. I've always done that.
Wow.
And because I just think it's just learning, it's just knowledge. Also, I'm interested, like you. I'm interested in other people. I find out what other people, how they look at things and what have you, different perspectives. So for me, I think it's really, really important.
Okay. And what kind of, what 3 kind of strategies would you say with regards to personal development that you would kind of recommend as doing as a businessman, as a successful businessman? What would you recommend, whether it's reading, it's absolutely working out? What would you personally recommend?
I think it's those 3 things straight away, as in knowledge, reading, definitely, listening to iPods and things like that, definitely exercise and obviously eating. I think that's really, really important. But I think the other thing as well to me is just enjoy. You've got to really enjoy what you do. I think that's really, really important. So sort of really, for me, I've always, like I said, done what I've wanted to do within reason. And I think that's really important.
Why is it important that you enjoy what you do? Why is it?
Because I think, if you really enjoy what you want to do, you become very passionate about it. And I think people see that passion in what you're trying to do. And then I think that opens up a whole range of things, and people want to connect with you through to, you can kind of work with people along those lines. So I think that's really important.
And in regards to, you would say that attracts people to you? They can see the enthusiasm in you, so that you think, oh, I want to do business with this guy.
Yes, I suppose I don't intentionally go out there thinking, like psychologically, I don't get there thinking to myself, oh God, if I'm really happy and really nice, people want to work with me. It's just, that's kind of how I am as a person, and I've always been like that. I suppose that does attract people to you from that point of view, because people kind of, it's energy, isn't it? People kind of like
magnets.
that. Yeah, exactly. So they're attracted to that. So I think that's really important.
Okay.
Definitely.
In regards to, I mean, I'm really intrigued, and I can't believe that you've done this. At the age of 21, you built your own house. Tell me a bit more about that.
Okay, so built the health clubs up. So built up one health club, then I bought another one. First health club then started kind of like waning off a little bit because I was then focused on the second health club sort of thing.
Okay, so you was kind of growing with the
that was kind of where I was at 20. That's where I was. My exercise business, as in my classes that I built up, I sold that.
Okay.
So I sold that on, made a bit of money from that.
Okay, great.
So that was kind of like really probably my first business that I'd ever sold. So I did that. So on the back of that, I decided to invest in another health club. So I started to build that up. And then I had an opportunity. There was some land that was being sold off by a nationwide developer. And they had what they basically created was these sort of like plots of land on a strip. And so I bought one of those plots, and I did what you would class as like a self-build. That's kind of what I did. So I created I bought, it was a Potton home. So it's like a timber framed house, if you like. And so literally did everything. I mean, my father, like I said, was a builder. So I'd always worked with him from a young age.
Did he help?
I used to go on the building site with him and stuff like that. So it was natural that I would probably at some point do something property related. He was dead against me, by the way, going into property.
Was he?
As in becoming a tradesperson. He was like, you don't want to do that, it's such hard work, sort of thing. So he kind of put me off of becoming a carpenter or a plumber or anything like that. It wasn't something, and to be honest, if you see my DIY skills, Alex, it's a really good job. I would not have lasted 2 minutes.
I'm just as bad. It's quite funny you say that, because a lot of people that kind of like in kind of conversation will say, get a trade behind you. Like I remember quite rightly some of my teachers at school saying, get a trade behind you, you'll be great. And they haven't done it themselves, so they're promoting get a trade behind you. And it's quite interesting to say from a tradesman point of view, from your father saying, son, don't go to be a tradesman.
We don't, exactly. Sort of, go and sort of work in the city or do something like that. I think I'll come back to that. I think it's a really interesting point about the trade thing, because obviously having our 2 teenagers is sort of something that I think is probably quite important. So with so did the health clubs, set those up, bought the piece of land, and then built this house. So obviously just did it on a straightforward like mortgage. So I bought the land. You could finance the piece of land. That was quite straightforward, and then you got a separate loan to basically buy this kind of this house, if you like, which was, as I said, it's like a flat pack house.
What year was this?
And oh goodness me, that would have been 1990. 91. Don't go there. It makes me feel really old when you say that. No, don't go there. It was about 91. So that's what I did. And but me being me, I wanted to kind of be involved with everything. So and I can always remember. We had contractors doing the works, and we had to dig this trench down the side of the house to get the water main in. And I was adamant I was not going to pay out to have a digger come and dig this hole. So I spent kind of like about a week like with huge blisters on my hands digging out this hole with a shovel sort of thing. And like people were looking at me going, "What are you doing?" But it's like I had to prove to myself
that you can
dig this hole, I can do that, and and sort of I didn't get too much involved with other things. But it's great. So we built this lovely house. It's 5-bedroom detached.
So it wasn't just this.
No, not a normal house. It was a beautiful house. It was really, really nice. And did that. And so I moved into that. But obviously, I had 4 spare rooms. So again, didn't really think about it. But I suppose in a way, I kind of did a bit of a HMO. I rented out the rooms. Although I didn't think of it at the time. But I just rented out the rooms to some professionals, and I had a room which was like my bedroom, if you like, and just shared the house with other people. So
would you say you kind of fell in love with property then, because that was your first kind of experience with property?
I definitely enjoyed it. And I suppose it's like one of those things, if you had your time again, I really wish that I would have kind of focused on property then.
Would you have done the trench again?
But I wouldn't have done the trench, definitely not. I would have had someone, I would have outsourced the trench to somebody else.
It's valuable time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really wish that I'd have done more with that. But, these things, life's about just trying different things out, I believe. And so I didn't go down that road. So.
Okay. And what encouraged you to do the house in the first place? What kind of
I
inspired
just see
you?
it as an opportunity. And I thought, actually, I want to have my own house. And I thought, I thought it was just a really good opportunity to kind of create my own house. I knew that there was about a 30% uplift in it. Yeah. So by buying the piece of land and obviously doing the works to the house, developing the house, there'd be a potential of about 30% value I could add to it by doing it myself. Okay. And that was really, I suppose, my main trigger point of thinking, actually, I can make, I can have a decent house, rent the rooms out, and make a good profit on it as well. So that's what we did. Right, that was around the time when we had kind of a previous recession. Right. Okay. And
so there was one pre-2008.
Yeah, before you were born, Alex.
Right, really?
You may not know that, but there were other recessions before. Before 2008.
Well, as big as 2008.
I don't remember that much about it because I was obviously quite young, obviously much older than you, but quite young. But so for the value of what I wanted to sell the house for wasn't quite what I was hoping. Okay. I broke even, basically. I didn't make any money on it, but I broke even. But as I said, I kind of ticked the box to say, I've built my own house. Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. Broke even on that.
Quite an achievement.
Which I was, do you know what I was pleased about? I didn't have to sell it. Yeah. It was that I really wanted a change of, I suppose, I just wanted to change. I wanted to change. I wanted to travel because I'd run my own business from, pretty much obviously from school and leaving school. Yeah. And I got to sort of like 22 at that point, 22, 23. And I just wanted to change. Yeah. I just wanted to kind of go and explore, explore the world a bit. That's what I wanted to do.
And this is when you went to Asia?
Yeah.
Right, okay. So and what part of Asia?
So I lived in Singapore.
Wow.
And then I moved to Hong Kong. So and the reason why I went out there was I had a good friend of mine that had a really good job working for quite a large insurance company. Yeah. And so he got a really good job out in Asia, and he just said, "Look, Lee, I've got a 2-bed flat, got a spare room. Do you want to come over?" And so I just sold the health club at that point, just sold the house. I had a little bit of money, and I was like, yeah, cool, that'd be fantastic. And I wanted to travel. Yeah. Didn't quite want to do the backpacky thing.
Right. Okay.
But I sort of thought, actually, that's a really good opportunity to do that. So that's what I did. I moved out to Singapore. Yep. Absolutely loved it. I had had the best experience.
Did you speak
ever.
Any different language?
I did at the time. Yeah, I had a little bit. Not so much Singaporean because they all speak English. Right. But when I moved to Hong Kong, there was definitely a bit of Mandarin, a bit of Cantonese.
Oh, really?
But enough to get me home from going out for a night in the taxi. I could get my address right.
Taxi hotel.
Yeah. I could get my address to get me back. So I learned that off. I obviously had to learn that off very quickly. Great. But that was brilliant, and I spent a number of years then living between sort of Singapore initially, and then I moved to Hong Kong. And what I did was I set up like just a small consultancy business.
What
I was doing, it's quite interesting. I was doing, I'd done some like various courses. I was really interested in sort of like stress management, and just like the power of the mind and things like that. Okay. So I did a range of different types of courses over the previous years on the back of like doing my karate and then being involved with like the health industry. So I did a range of different types of courses. And so when I went out to Singapore, I set up this small consulting business, really just working kind of HR departments. Right. Along those lines, doing like, I say stress management, but it was kind of like just working with their teams. Okay.
Can you highlight one kind of strategy to remain less stressed? Because I can be quite a stressful person.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and that's probably quite silly, but breathing is quite an important thing. Okay, obviously it's an important thing, but in terms of like taking control.
So when you're feeling yourself bubbling up, just remain conscious
deep breath of it, and just sort of that really does relax you. Okay. I think that's the first. Yeah, it's definitely the first thing.
How long for? Like a minute?
I would say. Yeah, or a few minutes. Really. Okay. Yeah, I think that type of thing. So that was kind of. Okay. Well, I kind of got myself involved with doing that, and then on the back of that, I then found myself just working within this kind of hotel industry
over
in Asia.
Right. Okay.
Involved with sort of So and that was really where I first saw the idea of serviced accommodation. Okay. Because they were taking their lovely suites, hotel suites.
It's a lot. Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, and like travel can do quite
Yes.
amazing things
Yes.
to like ignite ideas. And obviously with yourself with the hotel, Hal Schultz obviously travelled to Italy and he saw some coffee shops, and then that's where kind of the idea came from. And do you think travel, it kind of broadens your horizon?
Oh my goodness, it's the best thing ever. And as I said, having 2 teenage lads, I definitely want them to travel and experience the world, because for me, it just, I know it sounds like real cliche to say, the world's a lot smaller once you start traveling, but it really is. And just learning different cultures, just learning, just different things. It was brilliant. It was such such an amazing experience that I had. And but I really lived life to the full. Right. Put it that way.
Okay, you had a good time.
We'll leave that there.
Okay. What would you say is what kind of one thing you remember about Asia being like, oh wow, I wish they had this in the kind of the UK, or an experience that you.
I suppose it's like any of those countries. The weather makes a massive difference. So therefore the outside life is you just live outdoors a lot more. So not just sort of barbecues and things like that, but just being out. So playing tennis in the evening time, going to the beach. It's just all those, just that whole outdoor living. Again, I did a little bit of Tai Chi while I was out there.
Wow,
so like kind of getting up at like sort of 5 o'clock in the morning in the dark and practicing Tai Chi in a park in the middle of like Hong Kong in the city. It was just things like that. You wouldn't do that in the UK because it's too bloody cold apart from anything. So so definitely things like that, I would say.
And your MBA.
So alongside that, so I like to push myself.
I can tell.
And I thought, so obviously, I did my basic exams at school. Did my, back then it was called CSEs, by the way. CSEs and O levels.
CSEs,
that's what we did.
I've heard of O levels.
Oh, there you go. So that's what we did back in those days. CSEs were people not quite so clever. So that's what we did back in those days. I said got a basic range of my O levels and a few CSEs, and. But I'd never done any other studying, and I was quite keen to learn about business, if you like, properly. Having run business, now I wanted to really understand it. So I did like an overseas, if you like, MBA program while I was in Hong Kong. So I just started like a course, if you like, studied from home. Well, I say studied from home, I used to go into like the university as well and do some studying there. And that's what I did, and that was really good because I really understood, if you like, the basics of business. So like from like HR to accountancy to organisational structures, all those basic things. I really started to understand.
Do you think that's essential for someone to have in business with regards to MBA or kind of a qualification in business?
No, I don't think so. I don't think necessarily. I think MBA is very good if you're going down that corporate route. I think, and I can see the advantages to that sort of thing, why people would want that. I think people wanting to run a business, again, I'm probably going to say that, but just get on with it. Just do it and learn, surround yourself with the right people, read the right books, look at the right podcasts. And just learn. I think that to me is the way. That's what I would
kind of learn from doing the things that in business. So just do it and then learn from your mistakes.
Be passionate about the idea you want to do. Learn as much as you can about that and just run with it. That's what I would. That's what I would say to anybody, really. Again, I don't know if that's the right way, but that's what. Of course. That's my way of.
Well, you're pretty successful, so
of how I would do it, sort of thing.
Good advice. And in 2000, you came back.
So came back to the UK, and literally came back and met Amanda, my wife. And we had an opportunity to move to Cheltenham. So having done my MBA, I kind of had this thought that I was going to. I wanted. There was a job interview to work for Virgin, work for Richard Branson, as one of his entrepreneur, as part of his entrepreneur program that he had set up at the time. So to kind of be involved with different businesses that he had going on, and I just see this job opportunity. And I thought, oh my goodness, that is what I want to do. And that's I came back thinking that we were going to move to London, and I was going to go for this job. And I thought, if I don't get that job, that's the type of thing I definitely want to be doing, is involved with potentially maybe a company, or involved with setting up my own business. But I didn't know what at that point. And then we had an opportunity to move to Cheltenham and run a hotel. And I thought, well, actually, that could be quite good, sort of thing. Having done a bit of, like I said, working my way into the hotel business, I thought, actually, I could do that. And I thought, actually, that would just be a real challenge.
Okay, so you look for the challenge.
So that was very much to me, and I thought, it's a different location. I didn't know, coming from London, north of the M25 is, just too far away. You wouldn't know where places. So I didn't even know what. I wasn't into horse racing, so I hadn't even heard of Cheltenham, heard of Oxford. So Amanda and I came up here, absolutely loved the town. It was a really lovely place, and obviously we wanted to start a family. We wasn't married at that point. We kind of met and married within a year.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a whirlwind.
Sort
of
definitely.
thing. So so we moved up here. And we took over the management of the hotel, which is a lovely hotel. It's like a 9-bedroom boutique hotel, and that was great. And actually, there's some funny stories of. I mean, I was John Cleese, if you know of John Cleese.
I do actually.
I was. There were some mad, so things like the chef doesn't turn up. Okay, so I've got to cook the food, and I can't cook. So it's like, oh my goodness, what do we do? So there was some crazy things like that. In fact, I remember some funny stories of. We had a period where the chef actually just walked out. He was just like, had enough.
Mid-service?
Just went. So we finished off and scrambled through, and that's fine. At this point, Amanda and I, we married, and Jordan was conceived, our first child, on honeymoon.
Okay.
And so 9 months later, Jordan's obviously now here. But we were probably about 7 months into, like Amanda was probably about 6-7 months pregnant at the time, and. So we had no chef, and we were like, oh my goodness, what we're going to do. So, I mean, this is not the way to make money in the hotel business, but we would create a menu, based on what Amanda bought from Marks and Spencer's. So we'd have like salmon en croûte and, with like vegetables and potatoes and stuff like that. But it was all we bought it all in and like cooked it, and people loved it. They were like, this food's amazing. We're like, we're not making any money on the food, but here we are kind of, presenting
awesome.
Marks and Spencer's food. Definitely. So we kind of got our way through that. And things like, the housekeeper doesn't turn up. You've got to clean the room. So there was all those things that I said it was a bit of a John Cleese moment, but you just learn on the job, and you learn as you go through.
And you touched on challenges. Like, I mean, I get the impression, and you've said it yourself, that you do love a challenge. Why do you love a challenge? Why is it? Does it excite you, or? Yeah,
I suppose so. I'm quite competitive.
Okay.
To a certain point, and I suppose that comes from my DNA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sort of growing up, and so to me, it's sort of. It's a challenge to push yourself and try something. I'm not the type of person that wants to just sit in my comfort zone and just kind of have an easy life. I want to. I constantly want to push myself.
Do you think that's important to have as an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, is to have kind of always constantly pushing your boundaries to experience different things and go into new challenges if you're going to become the successful person you want to be?
Yeah, I believe so. Very much so. Okay. I think, again, one of my key learnings, I suppose, over time with that is being a creator, you can end up going off in a different direction. And I have done that before. So I think, I think it's good to challenge yourself, but I think you've got to really have that clear, it's important to have that clear vision and a clear plan of what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. If you think of like successful people like Richard Branson, people like that have got, under the Virgin brand, under his name, he's got a whole range of different types of companies. It's not him running it, he's just got brilliant teams in place of people running it for him, sort of thing. But it's all leveraged off the back of that brand. So I think along the way I've tried to do that. But you've got to make sure you've got the right things in place, as in the right team in place to help you do that. And I think that's quite important.
Great.
Sort of thing. So
I think myself, every time I stretch myself, it builds that bit more confidence in actually you can go that bit further.
Definitely.
And go a bit further.
Definitely.
It builds that courage.
Yes. You definitely want. I definitely agree. You want to stretch yourself. All the time.
So after the hotel.
So did the hotel, and but what I recognised at the hotel was that they had like a coach house, and they owned a block of apartments across the road. We had corporate guests that were staying, and they wanted to I found that they wanted to stay in these properties, and they were quite keen to just kind of grab a cup of coffee and a croissant or what have you, and head to the office. They didn't want to sit down for that full English breakfast. So that was where I first thought of the idea of, actually, what about the idea of having an apartment where corporate clients could stay in. They've got the kitchen, they could do their own cooking, they could invite the family up a weekend if they wanted to. And I thought, actually, what about the idea of families coming up to stay, where you've got a sofa bed, and then you could kind of like use the apartment. So based on running the hotel, I just had this idea, and then I was thinking back to what was being created in Hong Kong with the big hotel chains. And I just thought I could really see this working, in the UK as an idea. There was no one. I think there was about one company based in London that were an Asia-based company.
Wow.
That had some service apartments. That was it. There was no one in the UK doing it.
So he was kind of ahead of the curve, so to speak, because now it's like the buzzword. What was it called back then? Did you name it?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I just had the name. I think it was like Cheltenham Apartments or something like that. Okay. So the other reason behind that was that, as I said, Amanda was pregnant, and we wanted to have a family, and I was really keen I wanted to be part of my children's life growing up, if you like. So it was very much the mindset of having a lifestyle type business, because I thought, actually, I can be around. If I could kind of like build up, a couple of apartments, earn enough money from those that obviously would supplement our lifestyle that we had, and that was it. That was all I was thinking. I just thought I could build that up nice and easily.
And how would you recommend, obviously, a father, how would you recommend as an entrepreneur? Because it can get very busy as an entrepreneur, especially starting out. I mean, what would you recommend an entrepreneur do so they can actually gain back their time as well as running a successful business?
To be with the family.
Yeah, to be with the family.
I think it's really important that. So again, like working from home and working the hours that I work. I think it's really important that you really focus your time into a period of time. So I think, to say, right, okay, I'm going to do emails and telephone calls between 9 till 10. And that's it. And then you do something else. And part of that day could be, right, I'm gonna take the children to school. And that's really important. I'm gonna have breakfast with the family. I'm gonna make sure I'm there for tea time.
Very structured.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. I'm very structured as well.
And so, and over the years, like prep time, the boys would come back from school and they've got to do their homework, their prep. So I would be there with them doing that. So, so like say between 5, let's just say 5 till 7 is kind of tea and prep. And let's say the bath routine, that type of stuff. And then I'd then go back and do an hour's work, when they go to bed. So
you kind of make sure you do all your tasks, really focused, really productive. And once that's done,
build that in as part of your day. And that was really, from when they were born all the way through, sort of thing. So they don't want to know me now. Well, apart from money. Exactly. Dad, can I have some more Xbox credit? That's about it. So that was very much what we did. So we moved out of the hotel, we bought a house. That was just the traditional way of sort of put deposit down.
You didn't build this one?
Didn't build this one, just bought a house, lovely 3-bed house. In fact, I probably still look at that as my fondest, the best house, because I think because we had both the boys there as babies. And it was just the beginning of everything. So you kind of we've moved along the way sort of to various properties, but I still look at that as my kind of the house that I would really look at as my home. If that makes sense. Sort of thing. So it's kind of where that sort of started.
Like a sentimental kind of
thing.
Yeah,
definitely. So we did that, and then very much from there, as you mentioned earlier, I just built up
150.
Just through rent to rent and buying property. So you were able to buy property below market value back then.
So you kind of started off on rent to rent. That's quite.
So I literally didn't know what rent to rent was. In fact, I didn't know what it was until I went to a PIN meeting. Simon's Issue PIN meeting a couple of years ago, and then someone stood up and said rent to rent. I thought, rent to rent, that sounds interesting. And then they kind of explained what it was. I was like, I've been doing that.
I've been doing that for years.
I didn't realise there was a name to it. So that's quite cool. So that's what I did. I just literally built up a portfolio of property and just pushed the business. So as I said, sort of had properties in Manchester, down to Cardiff, Bristol, Reading, and then just worked my way into London.
How did you kind of manage that or oversee them businesses?
I did that. So along the way, I built up a team of staff. So I started off with just one person, employed 2, and then that just grew. So by 2007, 2008, I had 25 staff. We had obviously big turnover, 5 million turnover.
5 million, wow.
Of the rentals coming in. And it was really, I thought, this is it. The dream ticket of me selling out. At that point, there were a couple of other service accommodation companies had now started to build up. That kind of started, there was one company that started kind of just after me or a similar time to me, and they were doing very well. They were developers looking to try and make extra money, and they started to let them out of service accommodation. So I was mindful of them. And there was 1 or 2 other companies that were just starting to come into the marketplace, and I thought, wow, I've got a great business here. And I was thinking I would sell out. I would sell out to one of these guys, or potentially like a hotel chain that wanted to come into the marketplace for serviced accommodation. Because I really, like I still do now.
Yeah, do you enjoy it? Would you say you enjoy it, the previous business, because you kind of lighten up when you speak about serviced accommodation?
Yeah, I did. I loved it. I created a sales team. And their job was very much to go out and find corporate business.
Okay.
So we had this kind of whole system in place. Obviously there was the internet and stuff like that around. So, but it was still quite new of how you search for things and what have you. If I kind of go before kind of like 2007, if you like. So we would, I had a team that focused on finding corporate clients. We built up their budgets. We worked with their budgets, and we accommodated them accordingly. So, and one of the big areas that I really focused on then was London, and was the Canary Wharf, because that was starting to be built up, and the city. And I see that as a really good way to really take on more property. There was a massive demand because these banks were having graduates coming out of university, needed somewhere to stay for 3 months. So serviced accommodation was perfect for them because they could have flexible leases for 3 months at a time. We were buying them in, let's say on the rent to rent at say £500 a week. We were selling them out at £1,000 a week plus. So you know, the turnover became huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's that, what do they say? Profit is sanity, sales is vanity, or whatever. You know, that. So, and it was very much that. I suppose I started to chase the kind of the shiny penny. I started to think, wow, and now sales board changed. So rather than focusing in on the profit, I started to focus in on bringing in more sales. So right, let's try and hit, you know, 300,000 this month. Let's get to 350. Let's get to £400,000 rental income in a month.
Wow.
You know, when I think about figures like that, it's just crazy amount of money.
That is a lot of money.
But that was where I was starting to really focus on these big numbers, building up, you know, a sales team, if you like, of people.
So pretty kind of.
We were really starting
amazing.
to, So and that was kind of what we were doing. So that's kind of where it was going.
Okay.
And then, as the story goes, obviously 2008, the banking crisis literally hit not just me, but hit obviously so many people. Literally like that. And it literally just, I did not see it. In fact, a really good friend of mine that's a really successful property investor, property developer. I mean, he's got about 500 apartments. So he's a really successful property investor and has been doing it for like 30 odd years. And he said to me, Lee, he said, I just didn't see it coming. Did not see that recession and that whole banking crisis.
Can you remember the phone call you had? Can you remember when you first heard about it?
Well, it was pretty much, so basically what the setup that I had, you know, very, very briefly, was, so I was accommodating all these banks. One of the things that I did, which I regret, was that all the other places I had, so like Cheltenham and all the other places, I just had it under one company. So what I should have done was I should have split, and I should have had London as a separate company, because then that would have kind of ring-fenced the rest of the business. But I didn't. I had it all in one, because obviously I just didn't realise what was going to happen.
Of course,
So what we did was I offered to the banks, because they were banks, credit. I gave them 30 days credit on their money. So I sort of basically said, you know, we were accommodating all these people because there were so many. They were booking thousands of room nights with us. I mean, there were lots and lots of people. This wasn't just one bank. These were like, you know, your Bear Stearns, your Lehman Brothers, Barclays. There were some like English banks as well. So it was all the banks around Canary Wharf in the city. We managed to get ourselves into. So it was brilliant business. So we offered them 30 days credit because we thought, okay, and in turn we had credit facilities with our landlords. So we had it was sort of, so as the money came in, the money went out, and the rest of it sat in our account to pay our overheads. So that was kind of the basic structure that we had in place. So obviously the moment that the tap got turned off, when the banks literally disappeared overnight. And like so many people, it was just a vision. I remember like turning the television on, seeing all these, you know, it was so sad seeing all these people like leaving the offices with their kind of like files and everything like that. Was obviously the panic phone calls of me phoning my contacts and saying like, what's going on? And they're like, Lee, we're out of here. We've closed down. There's no. And I'm like, but you're a bank. What do you mean you can't?
How can this happen?
How can this happen? Like, you owe me all this money, and they're like, really sorry, we can't. There's nothing we could do. You got to.
What was going through your head?
It's just. I suppose at that time, I I just thought, there was that real panic of like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do, sort of thing. And I've got all these landlords that I'm responsible for paying money to, plus my staff, and what am I going to do? So obviously this was London, and I had obviously all my other properties which were okay, but they could not support that level of obviously income that I needed because of what I'd grown in London. So I approached my bank. My bank was Lloyd's. Lloyd's also went under. I got saved by the government. Obviously got taken out by the government. And it was the same thing with Lloyd's. They were like, Lee, we can't support you because obviously we're also being taken over by the government, sort of thing. So I was literally kind of left there. So I took some legal advice. Fortunately, we live in a country where they do promote entrepreneurship, which is a really, really good thing. And there are, in a legal framework, things that can help you as an entrepreneur when you end up in a situation like that, that help you in that situation. If, as an example, if I was doing this in Dubai, it would be a completely different situation. You're put in prison for having a business that if your check bounces, if you like, you're put in prison for that.
And is that the voluntary receivership? So what is that?
So what I basically had to do was I went into so the company had to go into voluntary liquidation, which basically says that I can't pay the bills because I've not got the money coming in.
Of course,
and I've not got the money coming in because these people that owe me the money also are not able to pay me. So what I did was took legal advice. I had a really good person that helped me structure everything properly, because I wanted to make sure I did everything properly in the correct legal framework. And that was really important to me because one of the big things I learned, Alex, is that when your back's against the wall like that, people are really quick to kind of stab the knife into you. You really get to know who you are. And I've heard this from other people before. That's my first time of experiencing that situation, but you really get to know who your friends are in a situation like that. So people that I thought were my friends, that were kind of landlords and stuff like that, they used it as an opportunity to, as I said, kind of stick the knife in and say, and kind of like, bad mouth me and all that kind of stuff. So not only did I have the business, and this isn't me giving a sob story, it's sharing
it's your story.
a real story of what happened, because I think it's really important to understand that. So business had to close down. I took legal advice on how to close the business down properly. So with that, you have to appoint an insolvency practitioner that pulls it all together, brings all the accounts, brings everything together, and then kind of contacts all your creditors, people that you owe money to, brings on board the people that owe you money into it, sort of thing. So it has to kind of be closed down in a very structured way, and within a certain period of time. So I went through all of that. And that was really, really tough. That was, for me, my mind. That was
your father this time, wasn't you? Or was you?
I had 2 boys. So 2 boys, lovely house.
Lifestyle.
Exactly. And it was just like, I suppose in hindsight, could I have thought that it was going to happen? Mate, I don't know. I just didn't think about it. As I said, going back to what my friend said to me, he didn't see it coming. There's a lot of people didn't see what was going to happen, sort of thing. I was, as I said, I was chasing that shiny penny. Maybe if I wasn't doing that, maybe the situation happened. But these things happen. It's what happened. It really put me in a really awful, a really lonely place, if you like. So I really, this was my baby. I built this business up from nothing to a business that I was really proud of. And it had been, like I said, kind of in a way taken away from me. So it hit me really, really hard. The staff, I got on really well with a lot of the people. Having to make people redundant is not a nice thing to have to do, and saying that you can't pay them it's really tough. That is a really, really tough situation.
What did you learn from that experience? Because it seems really negative. There's got to be some positives. What did you learn from it?
I think, as I said, definitely you get to know, as a positive, you get to know, there are people out there that will support you. There's no question about it. And I think it's a big learning about people, learning about yourself. I said, had a young family. All I know is how to trade. That's all I've ever done. I've never worked apart from that small stint in the bank, I've never worked for anybody. So I only know on a Monday morning I have to get up and I have to make money. So I suppose like the analogy of the Bunsen burner was firmly up my arse, and I had to get on with it. I had no choice. I had to get myself out there, and I couldn't. dwell in self-pity because I had to just get on. I didn't want my children, like the boys' lifestyle, to change. It wasn't fair that was to happen. So I did everything I possibly could to just get myself back up and going again. So I created, I set up a new business with Amanda. So we set the new business up, again, all done properly, professionally, legal.
Same kind of business, same.
Same sort of business. Obviously same business.
What was going through your head at that time? Because a lot of people, if you got kind of such a bad experience on the first baby, so to speak, and you set up again the same kind of business, what did you know that it was going to be successful again, or did you just love it that much?
I'll be honest, I had no choice. I had to do it. I believed in serviced accommodation. I still do today. I still thought it was a really good idea. I love the whole, I love the whole service element to the business, the hospitality side, the meeting of the guests. I love all of that side of things. And I just see that as an opportunity to just get back out there and just do it again. But the great lesson, I suppose, from that was that I thought I just want to do it differently next time around. I think the other thing as well was that I'd removed. So one of the things I'd learned was I'd remove myself from the day-to-day activity of the business, because like when you sort of get to the stage where you start employing people, so like 25 staff, you've got managers underneath you, managers and so I was sort of, in terms of like pecking order, I kind of put myself up here, which naturally I didn't mean to, but it kind of naturally happened. So like kind of running the systems and everything like that, I'd kind of originally built everything, but I wasn't then running them because obviously other people were doing all of that.
So you was kind of working on your business, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So now, obviously we're having to start again. I've now got to run the business. And I suppose the opportunity with that was that actually this is a great opportunity to start again. And kind of take the key learnings that I've picked up, lose the bits that haven't really worked, and let's start again, and let's now start to build this up.
So you looked at the positive rather than the negatives going forward, rather than learn from it and then put it into action.
Definitely, Wow. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, there was still negativity happening because, and rightly so, there were people that I owed money to, like landlords that I couldn't pay. And when I say, we were talking about a month's rent. So put it into perspective. It's still a month's rent.
Absolutely.
I get that. But that's what I kind of, there were landlords that I couldn't pay that I owed. Not everyone. There's a few people like that I know to. And I said some of them were really good, and they said, Lee, these things happen. We want to, we'll back you up 100%, and we're happy to work, continue to work with you because you've always been really good to us. And like I said, there's a few people that want to kind of put the knife in, so to speak. So there was still a bit of negativity. So I just literally switched off from that, focused 100% on that business. Was kind of what I did. And started again.
And in your bio it says your greatest assets is your knowledge and your network. Why is that?
So I think so I've always worked pretty much like that on my own, if you like, and worked with investors and worked with partners and things like that, and built up this business sort of thing. But I suppose. So it was only really a few years ago that my accountant said to me, he said, Lee, you should go to this thing. It's called PIN. It's called Property Investors, and they talk about property, and you'd love it because there's always people talking about property. And I just thought, I'll go along to that. It's going to see as one in Cheltenham. And that was I'll be honest, that was my first experience of a networking type of event, and I kind of walked in there and just thought, wow, I was just kind of blown away with how friendly everyone was. And bear in mind, I've been used to this kind of, you do something and then someone copies you, and then the next thing, now you're a competitor. So you end up in a situation where you kind of keep everything really close to what you do, and you don't necessarily want to share it with people. And I kind of went to this property event, this networking event, and it was so different to that. And I was like, wow, it just kind of, it really blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. This is a really interesting
you met
way.
some close friends?
So I've met people from there, so I kind of, so that was my first. So in answer to your question about sort of the networking side, I've always been working on my own. Now having been to PIN and now being involved with various things and really pushed the networking side, I think that's really important. I think
in business to have a network. In business
to have a really good network of people.
Why would you say that's really important?
I think it's good to I think there's a couple of bits to this. I think when we say networking, it's not networking for networking's sake, if you know what I mean. So
having a chat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because likewise, you're not always gonna. It's about finding the right people that you connect with. So which comes to really, I think, your values. Yeah. That's the biggest thing I think I've probably learned is that you know, I'm the type of person that sort of, you know, talk to people. Yeah, I can help you. Let's like kind of talk. Let's have a sort of chat, sort of thing. But don't really know people. That's kind of how I am as a person. I think I've learnt over the past few years, really, it's understand, before you start working with people, get to know them,
first.
Understand and see if your values are in line, sort of thing. And I think that's really, really important. That's
in any business relationship.
In any business, I think, really understand, you know, are your values? Because again, I think if I look back over the years, I've been involved in various partnerships over the years that haven't really worked. And I suppose if I look back on reflection to that, it's probably because our values were just out of alignment, sort of thing. So I think that's quite important to understand.
So my next question is kind of, what are the three biggest things? So I mean, it ticks off one of them, value. Going into a business relationship is probably your values, make sure they're in alignment. Yes. What would you say the other two you've kind of learned over the years of being in business? What are other two things that you've learned?
Just learnt in general for business. I think, again, knowledge, as we said, so really understanding about what it is you want to go into. Okay. And the other thing I think is like hard work, which has always been instilled in me. Okay, so work really hard, but work smartly. I probably haven't always worked smartly. You know, I'd be quite happy to work all the hours doing everything, like from cleaning apartments.
And what do you mean by working smartly?
I think just thinking about how you're working. So like that as an example of when I think back to when I started again, you know, I was cleaning the apartments, I was doing everything. I was doing everything, like answering the telephones, I was doing everything. And which I think was a really good thing to do, because on the back of that, I then put systems and things in place. Like nowadays, there's so many people that have done so many things, and we have such great access to all these different things that actually look at what other people have done and look at how you can kind of not necessarily work with those people, but look at how you can pick up information, sort of thing. And that's not just kind of taking from people. It's just kind of, because people are quite happy to share. So I think it's good to listen and learn from other people, you know, out there, sort of thing. So that's serviced accommodation. You know, I definitely don't know everything, and there's things changing all the time. So I'm happy to share what I know and my experiences, but at the same time, I'm really keen to listen and learn to what other people are doing. And it's like, you know, sort of being part of, let's say, Facebook groups and things like that. People put things on, you go, God, that's a really good idea. And then you go, oh, can I borrow that? Do you mind if I use that? That's a really good idea. So it's like that. That's the type of thing I think is working with people.
I mean, as well over the years, you expanded 2 businesses, well, 3 actually, with your health club, and then obviously the first kind of service accommodation, and now on to the next thing. How do you recommend an entrepreneur expands his business to goes to kind of push the boundaries and get bigger? How do you recommend an entrepreneur kind of can do that?
Okay, so I think Roger Hamilton sums this up quite well. Reading Roger Hamilton's book, which I absolutely sort of fell in love with when I read it. I was like, wow, this is really, really good. But he has this kind of...
What's it called, by the way?
The Millionaire Plan.
Okay, cool.
So definitely recommend that. I think it's called Millionaire Plan. Definitely recommend that as a book.
So can you tell me about the 5 Ps you mentioned in the bio about the 5 Ps? Profit, project.
So the way I look at any business now that I'm interested in being involved with is look at the project. So look at the business itself, really understand what you're trying to do, you know, what the demand is for that particular project that you're going to be involved with. So that's the project side. Okay. From there, I'd definitely be looking at how. So in my view, would be looking at how I can promote that project. So the marketing. And what I'm going to be doing to be able to promote that project. Okay, so that could be that through social media or direct marketing or whatever it might be. But really understand the marketing to that project. So project promotion. Okay. Then put the processes in place. So you've got all the processes in place then for running that project.
Like an example would be.
So it could be, let's say, like service accommodation. It could be the housekeeping and having a process in place of what a housekeeper needs to do. As an example, so that would be sort of a process that we'd have in place, and then from there, I'm going to be wanting people to run it for me, and I think that's the kind of working smart bit, if you like. So
this is all linked, isn't it?
So you're very much, and that's kind of like because I like to kind of have that kind of flow in place of how I operate, and to me, that's very much the kind of the journey of setting up a business would be, you've got your project, you know what you're trying to do, you're going to promote it, you've got your processes then in place, then you've got your people that are going to run it for you, going to run those processes for you, and then you've got, obviously, ultimately, if you do all those bits and you're focused on that, then you've got your profit.
Okay.
So that's
awesome.
to me is how I would look at a business. And someone quite recently said to me, which I didn't really think about before, and I wish I'd have known this a long time ago, but they were talking about with a business of basically your profit. If you sell a business, it's really a multiplier of your profit. Yeah. So potentially you've got to think about with your business, are you looking at kind of having a business that's going to be there for a long time? Yeah. Or is it a question that you want to sell your business? And if it's a question of you want to sell your business, then really you want to have the project, do your promotion, get your process in place, get the people in place to do it, you've got your profit, and then you sell it as a multiple. Wow. And there's a kind of in a nutshell, to me, that would be the ultimate way to have a business, and you're selling it as so basically you're just accelerating your cash flow, aren't you? Okay, yeah. Because if you've got, say you've got a profit of 100,000 and you sell it as a multiplier, say 3 to 5 times, that's 3, 4, 500,000. Wow. As a lump sum coming in. I know there's tax and things to pay, but you've accelerated your profit, you've sold out, you've got your lump sum, and then you start again. That's awesome. I've never heard that before. If I had my time again, that's what I would do. Wow, okay. So I suppose where I am with my sort of business life, if you like, is creating a sustainable business obviously now and building on that. But that to me is kind of my mindset now. I love that. I think that's really cool. Okay. A really good way to look at it. Yeah, I like that. That's good. In regards to kind of do you feel now from when you wasn't a millionaire to when you are now, do you feel different? What was it kind of giving you? Yeah, no, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any different. Okay. I still passionate about what I do. Yeah. I work, all the hours under the sun. Yeah. I suppose for me, I'm constantly having that battle that I need to take time out. Yeah. I'm constantly, that's 20 odd years later, I'm still doing the same thing. Yeah. So we have nice holidays, we live in a nice house, and there's, things that are associated to that obviously money buys you those things. Mm-hmm. I'm always challenging myself. I always want to push myself to the next level. So I suppose for me now, going forward in the next few years, is to keep on building the businesses the way I'm doing it, but try and free up more of my time. Okay. That's to be able to do. Cool. So I don't see myself going off playing golf because I'm not really, but just to have a bit more time to do other things as well. Yeah. And what keeps you motivated and driven each day to get up and grind and doing the things you're doing? What? Yeah, I think it comes out the same thing. It's that challenge. Yeah. It's that competitiveness and that challenge that I want to create something. Yeah. I know it's, the whole kind of evolution of business, it constantly changes day in, day out, and I know it's never going to be perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and it's never going to be perfect, but I want to try and make it, I just want to offer, a really, really good service to my guests, and a really good arrangement for my investors. That's my main focus all the time, if you like, what I'm trying to do. Great stuff. And with regards to kind of your next 5-year plan, where do you kind of see yourself going? What's next for yourself? I do have this big vision. I believe that Serviced, which is my company, Serviced Accommodation, I want to see that as a nationwide brand. That's my focus. I see Serviced sitting alongside a normal AST agreement. So when people go to a letting agents and they have an AST, which is 6 months plus, and they've got to pay all the bills and everything, I see Serviced sits there as a brand in its own right, which is a flexible lease, all bills included, furnishings included, and a customer service of a 5-star grading, if you like, backed up. So that's my vision of what I'd like to be able to aim for with Serviced, and to be able to have that as a brand throughout the UK. Wow, and it's a question of the challenges. How do you make that happen? How do you roll that out? And you don't know all the answers right now, but you will find out. And I think, I believe that I've made massive steps with that over the past year, and the normal thing, I've kind of flown forward with something that hasn't quite worked. It's kind of retract back, let's kind of take it in this direction slightly, until I find that pathway that makes it happen. And Alex, if it doesn't happen, do you know what? I've done what I wanted to do, which is really what it comes down to, which is what I'm passionate about. And the challenge, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so a few
fun questions now, reading off really fast. Your favourite film?
Favourite film? Oh my goodness, Godfather.
Okay.
I love the Godfather.
So favourite song?
Favourite song? Kaiser Chiefs. Ruby, Ruby, Ruby.
Favourite book?
Favourite book? Favourite book is probably The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, because that's all about systemizing your business.
Yeah.
And that I've read so many times.
Great book.
My Bible.
Yep. Favourite place to travel in the world?
For those that know me well, sadly, Dubai.
Okay.
Because we seem to go there about 3 times a year. So we need to try other places, but Dubai at the moment for us.
Great. So, and what hobbies do you have?
Hobbies? I don't really have a lot of time for hobbies.
Business.
But yeah, probably business, reading, and
Great stuff.
Taking the dogs for a walk.
Okay. And one last ending question. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
I think to summarize entrepreneurship, I think it's absolute focus, hard work, but freedom, and I think just the challenge and the reward of what all that brings for you.
Fantastic.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Is that
well,
okay?
yeah, absolutely. I just want to acknowledge you for your time. You're absolutely amazing guy.
Thank you, Alex.
Incredible
Thank
business. I've got nothing but absolute happiness and success for you. I really do wish you all the best.
Brilliant.
And
thank you
for your time.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
Thanks,
buddy.
buddy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.